Hey, I wanted to take a moment to wish you all, the LeadingAge Ohio, a happy 75th anniversary. Known for years as AOPHA, and now as LeadingAge Ohio, you've served your members and the community well. You started with just 17 members in 1937, and today you have more than 400 members representing every aspect of senior services and support. The world has sure changed a lot over the past 75 years, and you've seen quite a bit of it in your own profession. The introduction of Medicaid and Medicare, expansion of senior services from traditional rest homes to new models of care and support for our older and disabled Ohioans. In fact, one of the most important reforms we made during my administration was to allow older Ohioans to get the care they need at home instead of being sent to a nursing home. With people like you, I know we can help lift the spirits of a lot of older Ohioans and help them to live their lives to the fullest. Thanks for your steadfast commitment to service, happy anniversary, and best wishes for the next 75 years.
Hi, I'm Sherrod Brown. It's my privilege to serve as a United States Senator. I'm sorry that I can't be there with you today to celebrate LeadingAge Ohio's 75th anniversary. The work you do is so vital to so many in our society. You empower local not-for-profit organizations and religious communities to advocate for senior citizens, and you help amplify the voices of more than 50,000 elderly Ohioans. Some 3 years ago, my mother, who was in hospice, was in our hometown of Mansfield where I grew up, and my wife and my brothers and their wives and my wife and I were at her bedside pretty much every day the last 6 weeks of her life. One day, my mom said to me, asked me if I would sing a song that we sang when I was growing up in our Lutheran church at St. Luke's Lutheran in Mansfield. And so I went in the other room and got the hymnal, and I sang 3 verses of Beautiful Savior to her. And I stopped and she smiled and she said, very nice. And then she hesitated and she said, you know, Sherrod, you really do sound better in a group. She's right, we all sound better in a group. We all do better when we work together. That's why I know that all of us together with the work you do can ensure that seniors have affordable housing, have access to quality health care, and the resources needed to live with dignity. Thank you for the work you do throughout our state. You make sure that people in rural areas have rides to the local pharmacy. You provide physical therapy for seniors recovering from falls. You support Meals on Wheels for those in need, and you provide compassionate hospice care for those at their final stages of life. A Mississippi civil rights leader once said, "Don't tell me what you believe, show me what you do, and I'll tell you what you believe." I think all of you listening today, watching today, there today, live that every day of your lives. Thank you so much.
Happy birthday, LeadingAge Ohio. Think of it, you've been around for 75 years. You acquired at least 400 organizations that benefit from your service. You have done immeasurable good to senior citizens such as myself, and I'm pleased and delighted to be able to say happy birthday to you. I wonder what it will be like in 2087, 75 years from now, when you celebrate another interval, the same as the interval from when you began. You'll be 150 years old at that time, and how will you have dealt with the problems that have occurred during that time? How will you have dealt with the increased number of senior citizens in Ohio? How will you have dealt with global warming and sea level change? How will you have dealt with the changing legislative environment? I wish I could look over your shoulder at that meeting in 2087 and see what was going on. I'm sure you'll have done a wonderful job, and I wish you very well.
Hi, I'm Carol Silver Elliott, President and CEO of Cedar Village, and it's been my very great privilege to be a part of making this video to celebrate the 75th birthday of LeadingAge Ohio. When we began to talk about celebrating LeadingAge Ohio's 75th birthday and came up with the idea of creating this video birthday card, there were a lot of different directions we thought about pursuing. We certainly could have talked about the wonderful histories of the organizations that are members of LeadingAge Ohio. We also could have celebrated the association's accomplishments, and we will do that in a lot of different ways. But what became clear to us was that the stories that were most important to tell were the stories of those people who live within our facilities. In fact, those people in whose homes we are privileged to work. We found heroes everywhere we went. I only wish that we could share their complete stories with you, because these are only a fraction of the stories that are out there, and the stories that all of us get to hear every day as part of the important and wonderful work that we do. So we'd like to say happy birthday to LeadingAge Ohio, and we hope that you enjoy this video.
Well, the things that bring me joy in my life are, of course, family. That was true earlier and truer now than it ever has been. I think one of the things that brings me a lot of joy is living in Berkeley.
Well, aging is not for sissies, that is for sure.
I think that one of the biggest things that's helped us in the process of aging is talking to each other about it. We recognize what's going on. We're getting older, and that's inevitable. We're honest with each other about what is happening to us when we realize it.
When we remember.
Yeah.
The one thing that I like most about Berkeley are the people. I mean, they are from the tippy top to whoever who cleans or puts mulch in your garden, who shovels the snow. They're all so pleasant and so helpful. I think it's the people and the activities. My goodness, you can't do everything they'd like you to do.
LeadingAge Ohio has tremendous history. I was very fortunate to enter this profession at a fairly young age, and the mentors that I received from the individual members at that time, which is outstanding. The people that I met and the individuals that were willing to sort of take me under their wing and teach me through the process has had a huge impact on my career. Many of those individuals are no longer with us, but they knew the association well. They represented it very well, and they were leaders throughout the state. They were very committed to providing quality services, and they were willing to give back to various professional peers across the state. I feel very strong that being a part of a nonprofit or association is paramount. Our entire mission is driven on the not-for-profit story. We do feel we're different than other providers. We know that our sole reason for being is to provide the best services we can. It's not about dollars. Even though it has to be run in a very much of a business fashion, it's still about the mission. It's very mission driven. The association is about the mission. I don't think that in my 30 years of being involved in LeadingAge Ohio and previously OFA, I don't think they've ever lost sight that it's really about the mission.
You can't teach caring, but you can get good caring people. So that's what it's all about. Well, the association brings a lot to our organization from a standpoint of communicating or networking with other facilities and really looking at LeadingAge, trying to be innovative and creative, because to manage cost and quality is a big part of our job, and we need to keep the creativity high so we can manage that very well.
We got married in 1943, and the first thing she said to me was, "I want you to understand something, Emmett." I said, "What's that?" Any children that we have are going to college. Besides helping bring up the 4 kids, would be the introduction of what we used to call large-scale computers to business operations. I worked for a public utility electric and gas company in New Jersey for 40 some odd years, and got involved way back in the late 40s in the development of computers, and for 25 years was involved with their installation, application, use, and I would say that was a pretty good accomplishment. Understand, I have 4 children, I have 8 grandchildren, I have 8 great-grandchildren. What advice do I give them? Simply be honest with yourself. Be able to compromise, have compassion, and retain your integrity no matter what.
Our main campus here in Cincinnati. We also have a campus in Oxford, Ohio, which enjoys a very close affiliation with Miami University to the benefit of our residents and their students. And we have something I think that makes us pretty unique. We have our own licensed public FM radio station, WMKV 89.3, and the programming is what you would expect out of a senior services organization. It's, you know, big band music, Frank Sinatra, replays of the old Theater of the Mind radio. It's sort of a neat thing for the campus here. And I think LeadingAge is going to be a loud voice, a respected voice at the table where these discussions about the future are going to have to take place.
My greatest accomplishments were my children. I would make the world a better place by having people search their hearts and doing what God would want them to do. Put Him first, not themselves, but to put Him first. The reason I came to Mason Christian Village was because my brother lived here. And he liked it so much, and I liked it. As I would say, as soon as I moved everything in, walked in that front door, I felt at home right away. The thing I like most is that everybody is just wonderful.
Our nonprofits do have a good image, and so LeadingAge must always keep before us to stay focused on our image, and that our image is well balanced. I see a lot of changes coming in housing. I think housing is going to be totally different in the next 10, 15, 20 years. I think hallways are going to be totally different in design. I think it's going to be more cluster and living space where there's more community life, but to develop hallways where there are doors across the hall from each other, I think that's all going to change. We see some of that's happening, of course, right now in small houses. But I think we're going to see much more of that in nursing care and assisted living. The boomers are coming, and they're not going to want what many of our organizations currently have. And so we have to plan for that kind of a change.
My major accomplishments are my children, who grew up and they're wonderful. And I volunteered a whole lot, and I was holiday observance chairman for Wise Temple. And I would send things home, kindergarten and pre-kindergarten children, so that the parents would understand what the children are getting in religious school, at Sunday school, and they can carry on traditions in the house. And the biggest accomplishment I had with that is I had written to Charles Schulz to borrow his Peanut characters, and I made a book, Happiness is Shabbat, using all the Peanut characters. The biggest value I have is truthfulness. I had a friend that today she would say, it's beautiful out, and then tomorrow she'd tell me, it was horrible yesterday. And it got me so confused and so mixed up that I made up my mind, I'm always going to be truthful, and you don't have to worry about maybe you're saying the wrong thing. I just think truthfulness is very important.
Happy birthday, LeadingAge Ohio.
Sure, I'd love to wish the association a 75th anniversary. It's a very personal thing to me, and I was chairman at the time of the 50th anniversary, so it makes me feel a bit old, but very proud that I've been involved in the association that long. What an accomplishment. 75 years is outstanding. What's really outstanding, though, is the mission of the association hasn't changed over those 75 years. Happy anniversary.
I'd like to wish LeadingAge Ohio a wonderful 75th anniversary, and may there be 75 more.
I can say happy birthday to the American Association for Homes and Services for the Aging, but I'll also say it for LeadingAge. I'd like to mention that my wife and I had the privilege, if you will, as well as the opportunity to visit LeadingAge's annual meetings through the years because of our son. Very few residents attend those conventions, and they have about 8,000 to 10,000 people, management people from continuing care retirement community. For my wife and I, we were able to attend sessions, we were able to talk to management people, and from that we were able to determine Maple Knoll Communities is the best. And I thank LeadingAge for that opportunity. So happy birthday.
LeadingAge Ohio, happy birthday.
I would like to wish LeadingAge a very happy 75th anniversary.
Happy 75th birthday, LeadingAge Ohio.
I wish LeadingAge Ohio a very happy 75th birthday.
I guess I thought I might be a nun, a religious sister, but I met my husband, and that sort of changed the man to be my husband, and that changed my ideas. I wanted to get married and have kids, so we did, and we had 8 kids. I guess my goal in life was to try to help people, and I thought, boy, this will be my chance. I can help them. But I can't push them in wheelchairs. I can't help them out of their chairs because against the rules. But I still could help them just by trying to perk them up with a table and so forth. And I found the people here to be spectacular. The workers and the people that live here, they're all just, I don't know, they're just great people. I think the kids nowadays, if they would realize how important faith is, it would help a lot of situations.
I was born in 1935, February 20th, and I'm very proud to say I was an Army brat, only child, and I had a fantastic life, really. Spent my summers on the farm with my grandparents. Loved it, and that was a highlight of my life growing up, were my summers. And grandfather always had something for me to do, feed the calves or whatever, you know, with the bottle, and I just loved that. Gave up a scholarship to Ohio State, which is probably the worst thing I ever did, but I did it. And to get married, I might add. And I had a family of three daughters, who I'm extremely proud of now. They're the accomplishment of my life. So nice. And I have my family for holiday dinners now, and it's done right here. I don't even have to cook it.
First 11 years I would call my tomboy years. I actually carried a rifle and went shooting with my dad, target practice. We used to, not songbirds of course, but we went to relatives in the country and we would shoot sparrows and give them to a pet raccoon. And I also fished with my dad, and he even had bought me a man's hip boots that the smallest size he could get. However, when I reached 11, didn't he say to my mother, you know, I think it's time that Jenny Bell ought to start having some girlfriends. We always seemed to live in a neighborhood where there were little boys. I should tell you, school is what I like best of all in life. I'd have gone to school forever if I could have. I consider this my home, and when I'm gone for the day or occasionally overnight, I'm glad to get back here.
75 years ago, when the organization was getting started, Good Shepherd Home was one of the organizations that saw the vision and the benefits of joining. And so we've been part of the organization from its to take a look at what we will be offering in the future. And as the different needs of our community change, I think it's always been the nonprofit organizations who have done the best at adapting and modifying and envisioning what the community needs, whether it be home services, assisted living services, all the services. It's been the nonprofit facilities through the years that have come forward and been the leaders in what's going on. When you take a look at what LeadingAge has been able to do for the state of Ohio and the residents that are serviced by our organizations, it's a tremendous benefit to have had LeadingAge guide the way through service above profits.
When I was just a young boy, my dream was to be a big league baseball player. I was a big fan of the Cleveland Indians, and I loved to play baseball, and I still do. In other words, I play dart ball now, which is the closest thing to baseball. But I pitched softball for 70 years. If you don't, I started when I was 10 years old, so that was my love when I was young. When I was in about the 7th grade, there was some girl moved into our community, and she was kind of cute. And the first time I seen her, I said, "Hey, that's for me." And she was. I mean, I married her now, and we've been married for 69 years now. About the age of 50, my wife and I went into the Peace Corps, and that's how I got into writing. Went into the Peace Corps over in the Dominican Republic for 2 years. And then after we was out of that, then I wrote a book about my Peace Corps experience. So that's how I got into writing. My core value was, I had a theme that I went by, and that was dream, dare, do. Dream of things that I wanted to do and dare myself to do it. Then just get out and do it. And so that was, I always like to be involved with other people and in cooperatives and so forth. I always liked, when somebody else was happy, that made me happy.
I think on a very broad scale, our country really has an issue with ageism, and the way we structure our health care and supports for seniors really reflects a bias against people who are aging. And I see organizations like LeadingAge and United Church Homes as really working hard to overcome a lot of stereotypes that people have about aging. I think one thing that I think is very important, being a part of LeadingAge also helps us to join our voices with other organizations to affect public policy. I just returned from the national spring meeting of LeadingAge in Washington, D.C., and part of that meeting was spent walking the halls of Congress and visiting with our senators and a few of our congressmen to really talk about our needs and the services we're developing and where public policy could be very helpful to our seniors.
I think focusing on leadership development for the future, I think every CEO needs to focus on developing their own leadership team and board team, and the same with the association. Future leadership that can bring to bear the kind of resources. I'm not talking about just financial resources, but the thought resources and processes about how to continue this important mission in a new day and age. I would encourage new people coming into the field to remember that it's important to continue their own personal and professional development. It's so easy to get bogged down in dealing with regulations and funding and putting out fires and today's issues, but we really need to continue to serve and build for tomorrow. And if we don't continue developing our own skills and looking ahead and developing that professional network with a future focus, it becomes harder and harder. So I would build that personal and professional network, continue to develop those professional skills, and I think that will serve everyone well.
I think we're still concerned about the guy that can't afford it. And I don't know what the percentages are, but I think the highest percentage of older people in this country right now could not afford almost anything we provide. So we have to be innovative in finding less expensive ways to do the job that we are doing within the retirement centers. When I came into the field, it was persons coming to have service rendered unto them, perhaps, highly paternalistic and so on, so that you grew through gradually a period of time where that part disappeared. We had much better facilities, we had the long waiting lists, and in fact, all during my time, we still had the waiting lists. But then gradually, other organizations found that this is a pretty good thing to do, so they were building more facilities. And then there was the mood to help people stay in their own homes, a lot more of that. We engaged in it at Otterbein, helping people to stay, helping them back home, that sort of thing. But so much more of that's happening.
So surround yourself with good people, people who are smarter than you, people who love you just for who you are, and use that to sustain yourself in your goal and your commitment to what you're doing. A whole dream that was really coming to fruition, just starting, of how people could live out their later years, regardless of what their circumstances are, and do it in such a way that they could still be involved in life, have quality of life. We were just infants with that, of course, but I think that probably caught my attention as much as anything.
I think that all those changes that affect the providers affect the association. And I believe that based on where LeadingAge Ohio is and the fact that they are staying on the cutting edge of not only advocacy but education and other matters, that they're going to be well positioned to serve the members in the years to come as we navigate the changes that are ahead. And so we're going to rely on LeadingAge Ohio to help us through that. I think there will constantly be a need for our core business that we have today. But as we all know, there is a shift into more home and community-based services, so I think that's going to change. Also, I believe technology is going to play a big role in the way that we deliver our services in the future. In addition to that, with the whole healthcare reform and how that might play out over the next months and years will have a great impact on our services and Medicare and Medicaid. And so I think, those are some of the things that come to mind, as we look out how our business might be shaped in the future. Currently, we rely on LeadingAge Ohio for 3 primary resources, that being advocacy, education, and collaboration. In advocacy, we rely on the association to represent us in the public policy arena. In education, we are grateful for the educational opportunities that they provide to keep us on the cutting edge of clinical matters, reimbursement, and leadership. And then collaboration is very important, and as they gather facilities from all over the state of Ohio, different sizes, different geographic areas, together for one common purpose. So we find a great deal of value in all of that.
I became acquainted then with the leader of the Church of the Brethren, and in 1941 they started a service program called Brethren Service. And when I had the opportunity, I went to their reception center in Maryland, a collection center. After World War II, they started collecting clothing. They had an old college campus, just 3 main buildings, and where they accepted the clothing, then they processed it, and then they bagged it, marked it, stamped it, shipped it, sent it overseas. And so that was my relationship with a broader field, a broader program. And I was working there at one time, and I got a phone call